What's up, everybody?
Everybody, what's up?
It's your favorite Maniacs.
Hey, aka your favorite band.
The Music Maniacs, Sight After Dark.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Berg.
I'm Sifa Graffiti.
Today,
We are
talking
about
a
wonderful
band
named
Joy
Division.
Yeah. This is really exciting because this is like a band that like they're huge, but I still feel like they're underrated.
Yeah, and underground in a way, and I love it like this.
Yeah,
you know me.
Yeah.
Don't get too big on me.
Right.
All right. I'm joking. Get
They're
as
like
big as
they're
you need.
just for me.
Exactly.
Joy Division exists just for me.
I am so selfish like that. I am. Like, honestly, like the end states, like when I was just a little kid figuring out how to fill out stuff, and I was like, how come Nevada's first? Like, you know what I mean? Like I was still pissed, no matter if it was like alphabetical.
What, because Nevada was before New York?
Yeah.
Yeah,
or something. Anything that was before it, I was just like, what?
Yeah.
New Jersey?
But United States of America was still first above all the countries.
Yeah. As long as it's like that, I'm fine. I don't want to go all the way down past V to find my
I don't want to
country.
be next to Uzbekistan.
Exactly. How come Algeria's first?
Yeah, what did they ever do for us?
It's crazy.
Albania. No, I'm sorry. The Albanians will come after me. I don't mean it.
They will.
Yo,
They're on the west side of Brooklyn.
I take it back. Anyway, we're talking about Joy Division, right?
Uh-huh.
Quite a joyful little band.
Yes.
Very happy little ditties that they made.
Love to divide things.
Full of sunshine, full of happiness and wonder of the world.
We love this band.
And positivity.
They wore all white all the time.
Yes.
Guys.
Yes. They were just angels on stage. And off stage.
And off.
But, okay, so let's get into it.
Yeah.
If we're telling the story about Joy Division, we have to bring it back to a band that started a little bit before Division.
Yes.
Before Joy Division.
Yes.
That was one of the biggest bands of, punk in the UK.
In the UK. Anarchy for the UK.
Which, obviously, we're talking about a band called the Sexual Assault Rifles.
Exactly. The
Right.
fornicating rifle.
Oh, my bad. I meant the Sex Pistols. That's what I meant to say. Yeah, so we're not gonna get into the whole history of the Sex Pistols. That'll be another episode for another time.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
But basically, they were the first like really big commercially successful punk band.
Yeah.
Which, to sum up, in the 70s, there was all these bands like progressive rock and Led Zeppelin. They're having these huge 10-minute guitar solos and
Yes.
very progressive. And like the young blokes in the UK and in other places around the world, they were like, "Fuck that!
I'm sick of this shit."
I'm sick of that. Let's just play music. We don't even need to know how to play instruments.
No.
Just pick it up and just have energy
Exactly.
and write a song.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yep. And the buzz caught on. And everybody that didn't know how to play ran down to the club and was like, I want to not know how to play with you.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're just not going to play together.
Teach me how to not play.
Exactly.
Johnny Rotten, teach me how to not do anything.
And become famous while about it.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Sex Pistols, they're a big deal in the UK.
Yep.
Despite all the anarchy. Mm-hmm. And they're touring around the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
And they play a show in a city called Manchester.
Yep. And people came to see them.
And basically everybody that went to that show was like, I need to start a band yesterday.
They were the Beatles of their moment, right?
They really were. I was thinking about that because, we've said in a lot of episodes that we've done before, a lot of people said like when they saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show is when
Yes.
they were like, oh, I could do this. I could
Yes.
be a musician. Well, in the UK, on a smaller level,
Yeah.
the Sex Pistols were basically that, where people saw them and they were like, oh, I could do this.
Exactly. Why is it small? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, we all know what goes on over there.
Because we do big things over here in
We do
America.
big things here.
We got big burgers.
We got states bigger than your whole fucking country.
But they got double-decker buses.
So do we.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Shout out to the New York City bus tours.
Never been on one. Wait, maybe. Never mind.
I've never been on one.
I might have been on one when I was young. It's just very vague, so I don't know if it's a dream or if
Yeah. Were you on the triple decker?
No, I might have been on the quadruple.
Oh shit!
That one had a pool.
That's like that's like a moving skyscraper.
Yes, it had a pool and had a slide all the way down to the subway.
Yeah,
It was cool.
wow.
You used to stop over a pothole, and then you'd be able to slide down to the subway.
Oh shit!
Like directly,
like a firefighter.
just like one.
Oh shit! Is this the F train? I was looking for the L train. Anyway, okay, let's get back to Joy Division. Who are we talking about? What are we talking about again?
Johnny Rotten in the UK, Anarchy for the UK. They were a big deal performing and inspired many young chaps to start a band and chapettes to start a band.
Yes. So they go to Manchester where they played a show at, I think it was called the Manchester Free Trade Hall.
Uh-huh.
And basically everyone there was like, I got to start a band.
Yeah.
Right? So about specifically Joy Division, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
But the first two that were like, we really got to start a band was a young bloke named Bernard Sumner.
Uh-huh.
And another bloke named Peter Hook.
Correct.
And Bernard's like, I'm going to play guitar.
Yep.
And Peter's like, I'm going to buy a bass.
Yeah.
Right? So they start a band.
Uh-huh.
They didn't have the name yet or anything like that.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah. They put an ad in the paper for a singer.
Yeah.
And their friend that they already knew from like school or something. I don't really remember how they knew, but I knew they knew each other before.
Yeah, because their thing was, okay, if we like you, you can join. You know what I mean? Because remember, we're talking about not playing, right?
Yes.
You don't need to know how to play. If we like you, you're in.
Yeah, so their friend Ian Curtis was like, hey, I'll be in your band. And they were like, okay, no audition.
Exactly, because we like you.
You got it. And yeah, so then him, the three of them, and then they got a drummer named Stephen Morris.
Stephen Morris became the drummer, yeah.
And they were like, let's play some music, guys.
Let's play a little bit of it. We're so inspired by John James Rotten III that we will start our own band as well.
Yes. But they did a very different thing. Well, we'll get into that, actually. Because they started off pretty just basic punk.
Yeah, because you gotta book the show. So I guess you want to sound a little bit like what everybody sounds like and kind of what you sound like, right? Because you went to go see them, so you're gonna emulate them a little bit. So they started playing a little bit like that. But then Ian's just writing skills just started like floating off of the paper.
Yeah, Ian was quite a guy.
Yes,
he was. So it's funny. Like there was a lot of not to make like a bad pun, but there's a lot of like schools of rock that you could follow. Like if you're somebody, and this is the late 70s, this is like 77, I think. Mm-hmm. You could 76, 77. Yeah. Like that time period where
6.5.
You quarter?
Mm-hmm, 3/4.
Ah, okay.
Point. No,
you could be like, oh, I like what Black Sabbath does. I want to be kind of in the Black Sabbath. Why can't I talk today?
I don't know.
The Black Sabbath realm of things.
Yeah.
You could see, you could listen to Hendrix and be like, I want to kind of do something more similar to Hendrix. Mm-hmm. But Ian, he was like, I love this band called The Doors. Mm-hmm. And their singer, who we'll definitely do an episode about, called Jim Morrison, who is just like a shaman of music.
Yes, he is.
Like he didn't have the typical stage presence, just like jumping around, being all crazy. Mm-hmm. The thing about, and obviously, like we'll talk about this more in a Doors episode. The thing about Jim Morrison that was so crazy to me, I always thought, is that the band would be going so hard behind him, and he would just be in like this like meditative, like you know what I mean?
Almost like prowling around, and even his stare, he lured you in with his glare as well. He just had that about him. So prowling around or meditative, just making you kind of want to go with him, and quite poetic, just like Mr. Curtis.
Yes. So whatever it was about Jim, it really connected with Ian.
Yeah.
And that, I'm not going to say he modeled himself after Jim necessarily, but Jim was clearly a huge influence on him. A huge
influence, and those are the influences that I personally like to see when it's like it's clear that person influenced you, but that you're like that person's point 2.0 or something like that, or you're the next level to that person.
Right. You're not just copying it. You're one-upping it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like I said, so not only was it like Jim's stage presence, but also like his writing style. It was, it was not very happy necessarily.
Not necessarily very happy.
It was pretty dark, pretty fucked up at sometimes.
Yeah, oddly perceptive, to certain things that you don't pay attention to. Jim paid attention to, and it seems like Ian more paid attention to.
Yeah.
I find Ian's poetry more quote unquote realistic. Like he's actually talking about a room, or he's talking about an actual place, and then a lot of times Jim is talking about an idea.
Right, like Jim is more abstract.
Yes,
and Ian is a little more down to earth.
Yeah, focused or I don't want to say.
That seems kind of British in a way. Now I think about it.
Oh yeah,
that's like a British kind of way to do it. Anyway, we don't need to talk all about Britain, but yeah. So anyway, so the band is together, right? And they start off just doing punk because that was what they knew how to do.
Right.
But then as time goes on, they develop their own sound.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a gorgeous mishmash of punk and like what became a gothic type rock and roll gothic style.
Right.
Which they pretty much gave birth to.
Well, I was going to say, you have a theory about the Doors and gothic.
Yeah, I feel like Jim Morrison is like the grandfather for gothic style music. He pretty much gave birth to Joy Division, and then Joy Division gave birth to everybody that came under their style, and then their great grandkids are like emo kids. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, it all comes from there. You got to be depressed to get on this bus. Okay?
You're not allowed to be happy and make good music.
Okay. And even if you are happy, you got to fake like you're depressed. Okay, you got to say you hate things, you can't stand things.
You got to say things are insufferable.
That's right. That's right.
So they started out, when they started playing, they were called Warsaw.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't know, I guess they were really into like World War II era like shit.
Exactly. Put me to sleep, okay? I mean, this is Global Studies 10th grade, the Warsaw Pact. Good night, Mr. Nash. I am not paying attention. I'm coasting with a C+, B-. I'm letting you know right away.
Right. But it's interesting though, thinking about like Britain at the time. So like they grew up, I mean, they literally had bomb shelters in their backyard.
Yeah, they basically are baby boomers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of, especially, being over there, they were kind of still living in the shadow of that war.
Yeah. I mean, this is like 10 years before them, but like Pete Townsend said he used to walk down the street and used to be like shrapnel, shell casings on his way to school. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely influences their sound and their kind of just like overall feel.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Shit is fucked up here in the UK.
Shit's fucked up. And it was like there was like an economic depression at the time. Like people were out of jobs. Like it wasn't a great time for the UK.
No. But it was a great time for art. Seems like the 70s really dug into people's pockets, but expanded their minds.
Yeah.
And their artistry.
Yeah, that's true.
Over here across the pond too?
All over the world.
That's true.
So Warsaw, they started playing, and they were pretty punk, pretty basic punk. But as time goes on, they kind of develop, a lot of a moodier style.
Yes.
And they changed their name to kind of go along with that.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yes.
And they settle on the name Joy Division, which is funny because it kind of sounds happy. But it's very much not.
Exactly. They took that name because they didn't want Warsaw, and because the name Hitler Youth was already taken as well.
Yeah. So if y'all don't know what the Joy Division is, there was a band called Hitler Youth, right?
Yeah.
Like a punk, like some kind of punk band. I don't know if the timeline is the same, but
yeah.
Anyway, what the Joy Division was,
it just has a good ring to it. I wish it didn't.
I know, right?
It does, though. There's a lot of fucked up words that have good rings to it. It's just terrible.
Yeah. But what the Joy Division is basically like a group of people that the Nazis kind of took to have sex with people.
Yes.
To like force them to have sex with people.
Exactly.
They were the Joy Division.
Exactly.
Which is such a German way to say that.
I know. You know what I'm saying?
It's so like they're the Joy Division.
You know what I'm saying? What, the German girls don't like you? You got to put your grubby paws on the hot Jewish girls?
Yeah, basically.
The fuck?
So Joy Division is like, well, this is a fun name because it sounds kind of happy, but if you know anything, you know that it's fucking not.
It's not.
And it goes really well with their sound at the time.
Yes. Their sound, their way of thinking. It's very clever of them to name themselves that because that is their band.
Yes, exactly. And because, like we said, Ian's kind of dark broodingness and like poeticness, it really goes well with that. And then the sound of the music starts to change as well, right? It becomes a lot moodier, and very bass heavy, which is what's up.
That is definitely what's up.
Peter, our boy Peter, he basically played the bass as a lead instrument.
Yeah.
Which wasn't something that people really did.
Especially, definitely in rock and roll and definitely in that scene.
Like, he would play the bass real up high so that he would play, like, lead lines, and then Bernard kind of play guitar, I'm not going to say in the background, because he had his moments, but he was really just filling out the sound for the most part, where the bass was really the driving force of Joy Division.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then you've got like these sparse, moody bass lines, you've got Ian's like dark, poetic lyrics, and it clearly becomes a much different thing than any of the punk bands at the time.
Exactly. So of course they start to kind of like rise to the top because they become the cream because they've got like a different angle, to things, which is very interesting. It's kind of how much pain Ian Curtis is in because he suffered from epilepsy. And that kind of translated in his poeticism. I'm just paralleling that. I have another favorite rapper whose name is Prodigy, and he suffered from sickle cell. And he said because of the pain he physically felt, he was able to put it like on a pen and like really be so descriptive because a lot of that stuff was happening to him. So I wonder, if Ian's like along the same lines,
I do think it became like that because I don't think when they started Joy Division, I don't think that he knew he had epilepsy yet.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and because of these things can exacerbate little diseases or small things that you have, you touring for hours and hours and hours, not sleeping, not eating properly. You know what I'm saying? I am a sensitive person. Okay. I need certain meals, right? Or else I just blow up.
My body needs certain things or else it doesn't want to cooperate.
Does not want to cooperate. Yeah. I gotta say, stan culture working like that all the time. I don't think it's healthy for the individual. People were screaming at this young artist the other day named Doja Cat because she didn't come downstairs in the middle of like a tornado to say hi to her fans, and then this other guy was like, Michael Jackson would never ignore his fans, and I'm like, Michael died exhausted at 50.
Yeah.
50 is young.
Yeah.
So
100%.
He didn't know he had epilepsy. Yeah, and it starts to get exacerbated. But but back to the music.
Yeah. So also around this time, so there was another person that was at that Sex Pistols show by the name of Tony Wilson. And he was kind of a big deal in the scene in Manchester.
Yes,
because he was like a TV presenter.
Yes.
Right. He had some kind of like music show. It was kind of like the Top of the Pops, but like Manchester.
Right.
And the thing about, I don't know England that well, but, Manchester's kind of far from London, so it's a whole different scene. So it's more of an underground kind of scene. And he was kind of the one that would find these like underground bands and kind of like bring them more attention by putting them on his TV show.
Yes.
So one day they're out at the pub and our boy Ian sees Tony.
Yeah.
And he goes right up to him. He was like, "Hey, Tony, you fucking cunt. Put us on your fucking TV show, Joy Division, bitch." Or whatever. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but it was probably a little something like that.
It was a little something like that.
And I just imagine it's so funny because he's like, Tony, he's like he's a local celebrity. So I'm sure people go up to him all the time, like, "Tony Wilson, you're the man, yeah. And Ian goes up to him, he's like, "Tony Wilson." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Fuck you." So right away, he's probably like, "Well, this is different."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this guy caught my eye.
Yeah.
And then also, Ian was like a tall dude, and he was just like he was definitely a presence.
Yes. Definitely.
So him coming up to you like that, you're not just gonna forget that,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's just like, "It's my band's Joy Division. Put us on your fucking show." And he's like, "All right." So they put him on the show.
So they put him on because Ian said so, and let's say, okay, their performance. Tony Wilson said that Joy Division is the missing link between Elvis and Susie and the Banshees.
It's true, though. I get it. And I think he's right. I don't think Tony Wilson's ever been wrong about anything in his life. He's a prophet of music. But no, okay, so
That is insane. First of all, Joy Division and Susie and the Banshees could easily be on the same roster.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That is really funny, but it is what it is. That's that's how he wanted to express himself, and he has every right to do that.
Every right.
But so they go on the show, and again, it's really hard to explain how different the Joy Division was from just the regular punk music. Because not only was the music so different, but also just Ian's front manish
movements.
Yeah. It was just so different. Like, he wasn't trying to be like, what's up, everybody? How you feeling tonight?
Yeah.
Like, he was not doing any of that shit.
Yeah.
He just literally, like, you could see it in his eyes that he just completely lost himself to the music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just shut his conscious brain off, and his body just became a conduit for the music.
Yeah.
And he started doing these like, dances.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, like, nobody would ever think to do, because it doesn't really look cool. Let's be real.
No.
Like, it's not a cool looking thing to do, but that's just him.
Uh-huh.
And he owned who he was.
Yeah.
And that's why people were drawn to him. Because he wasn't trying to be anybody else. They were just trying to be Joy Division, and he was just trying to be Ian Curtis.
Yeah.
And that's, again, it's something we always talk about in this podcast. Like, authenticity is always the thing that wins out in the long run.
Yeah.
And that was authentically who he was.
Yeah.
So him being who he was, the music listening or watching public was like, I've never seen anything like this before.
Never.
Like, not even close.
Right? Like, I don't know. Is this guy going to sing to me? Is he going to hit me? Like, is he going to attack me? Because, like you said, he's a big guy with a big stare, with a big glare, and, like, in a very, very deep voice, and so perceptive. So it's just like, you don't know what to think. But I'd be moving just like him.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that he does have that really deep voice, which also separates him from, especially you think of, like, we're talking about the Sex Pistols, we're talking about Johnny Rotten, he's got that high, like, anarchy, blah, blah, blah. But Ian's like,
exactly.
like, he's all, like, his whole style was so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and that also might have to do with some of the Jim Morrison influence.
That's true. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. But yeah.
This is the end. Boom, boom, boom. Beautiful friend.
And he was just like, screw this. But yeah, the music. What's great about Ian Curtis is that they said that if anybody ever left the band, they would have to change the name.
Yes.
So I'm just flashing forward. We're going to come back to the music, but Ian dies. Not telling you how. You have to watch the whole podcast.
That's right. Spoiler.
So Ian dies and the band does change. But Ian's writing is so prolific that it carries on into the next band, where it's like that his song becomes like a huge song for them.
Yes.
Which is really, it just goes to show like how much of a conduit Ian was, for not just the band. I wish the band would have lasted longer, but when you think about that sound, they're like the only band that you really turn to and look for. So that's cool enough.
Yeah, and I want to say something. So I don't remember exactly how this went down, but in my head, I always think that Sifa introduced me to Joy Division. I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't know if you just like mentioned them or something.
Yeah, something like you got to listen to. I don't remember exactly how it was.
But I remember always hearing the name, but I never like actually listened to them like 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
But then we started, making music, and you said something about Joy Division. I was like, oh, let me check these out. And I was like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So it was really funny because when I first heard them, the first thing that I thought, I was like, oh, this is like the absolute best version of that like 80s emo shit that I've ever heard. Like, this is the absolute best version of this.
It is.
But then I looked into it and I saw that their first album came out in 79. And I was like, oh, now I get it. Like, these guys were way ahead of the time.
Yeah.
Like, these guys set the whole sound of like 80s indie rock basically in the 70s.
They really did. They really did. That whole feeling, it's kind of like it's a uniform feeling, and a uniform kind of look, and downtown clubs, Manhattan clubs. I always kind of used to wish I was older, like, you know what I mean, just for like that scene and that sound. Like I really liked how it looked. And yeah, you're right. Like, he really hit when you think of it's not if you don't know Joy Division at all, right? When you think of that sound and that scene and stuff, you're obviously not going to go and look up Joy Division. But when you play Joy Division, you're immediately going to think of that sound and that scene. Like they do that. They're like the Eagles of their style. When you see the Eagles, you think America.
They're the emo Eagles.
They're the emo Eagles.
Yeah. But it is really true. It's really just crazy how much of an influence that they had. But, obviously we'll continue to talk about that. But around this time, they're getting big, they're touring. And our boy Tony, he was like, I got a great idea. I've been knowing all these Manchester bands, and I want to start a record label. And I want to get all these bands on my label. So we started Factory Records. And he was like, Factory Records wants to sign Joy Division. And Joy Division said, okay, but you got to write that contract in blood. And Tony Wilson was like, that seems reasonable.
Seems reasonable.
I don't see why not. So they fucking did it. So that's an unbreakable contract.
It really is. That's insane.
So they signed Joy Division. He did what he set out to do.
He really did what he set out to do. People, be careful the games you play. Okay. Some of them are real.
Yo, this is some real life shit. Okay. We put our blood on the contracts. No one can say that you didn't sign Joy Division. So they get on there. So they're signed.
They are.
They're playing all the way around the UK.
Yes, and they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
And I think this is when the epilepsy really starts to rear its head.
Yeah, the epilepsy was like, fuck that, man. It's my time.
And also, we didn't even mention this. Remember, so Ian got married mad early. I think he had a kid already.
Yes, and that become a strain too, because you don't really, you get older, you think like you're supposed to do certain things. I'm supposed to be married by now. I'm supposed to have a kid by now.
Right.
And then it comes on, and then it starts to bubble up.
But also, the dude was only like 20, 21 at the time. Like he was mad young.
He really was young, but I mean, I don't know. He's a baby boomer. They do things young.
Yeah, but that's just to set the stage of like Ian's current, situation.
Right. He's on tour. He's the lead singer. Everything is getting more stressful. These are Brits, so they're gonna keep a stiff upper lip about it.
Push it down.
But but it's got to show up somewhere. That's just the way it is. We live on a globe. Everything kind of comes out.
It's all a pendulum.
Yeah.
So one day they're driving back home from a gig, and they're in the car, and Ian has a fucking seizure. Mm-hmm. And he had never had a seizure before.
Nope.
And so he didn't know that was something that would happen to him, and nobody else knew that as well.
Right.
And so that just all of a sudden is like, oh yeah, you have epilepsy. It's like, oh fuck, all right. But he's not going to stop doing what he does.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's really funny. Like, I always hear them say, like, if you listen to Joy Division and you hear how, like, moody the music is and you know that Ian killed himself, you'll think of Joy Division as just, like, a bunch of depressed guys. Mm-hmm. But, like, in real life, they were like, yeah, they were, like, fun to hang around with. We would go to the pub. We would blah, blah, blah. Because, it's, again, like, everybody has different aspects of their personality. Yeah. And the music is how they got out the more upsetting parts of their personality.
Yeah.
So the music was very cathartic for Ian.
Yeah.
So he's not going to stop doing it.
No. He does, however, need to sleep and eat properly, which he does not do.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think, that might be a little bit attributed to him just being, young and dumb. Because, again, they're touring, they're doing all these things. He's still working a day job, too.
Yeah.
So, and his doctor's like, look, Ian, like, cut back on the late nights, cut back on the drinking. And he's just kind of like, do I really need to do that?
Exactly.
I don't know.
I'm Ian fucking Curtis.
I think I'm going to keep doing it. So, obviously, it gets worse, but we'll get back to that. Because now they're signed.
Yes.
So now they got to record an album.
Uh-huh.
And Tony is like, I got this producer that's going to do great shit for your music.
Uh-huh.
This guy, Martin Hannett, right?
Yep.
And he really was a groundbreaking producer.
Yes.
Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, he really changed their sound.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because, again, their shows were very much faster, like, more punk energy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the band wanted the album to be.
Right.
But Martin was basically like, hey, I got all these like recording techniques and things that I'm trying to use out. Y'all are basically going to be my like guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs, yes, yes.
Right? So he starts doing all these shit, like all this crazy things. Like he's recording just like air canisters spraying, and he's making you record drums on the roof because it sounds different. And he's putting all this reverb and effects on all the vocals and all this that like they didn't do before.
Exactly.
And it completely changed the sound. And it is what makes the Joy Division sound so distinctive on the recordings.
Yes.
But also at the time, they were like, the band members were like, what the fuck, dude? This is what we're trying to do. What is this shit? You know what I mean? Which I think is so interesting.
It is. It really is. But I mean, and he did well. Like, I mean, those drums stand out so much. I wanted to know. I remember listening to those drums and I'm like, are they using a drum pad? What exactly do they do to make it sound like that? Why does it sound like they're in a wall of space? And then we know why does it sound like they're banging against the wall?
Yeah.
Why is the bass so far away but so close at the same time? Like, I ask those things as a young listener, so you imagine, what a seasoned listener or somebody who's like really attuned to music, like as a profession, other producers in the game, they're probably like, whoa, what the fuck? Like,
it must have been just absolutely groundbreaking to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, so the sound is just completely different than what their live shows were. And another really interesting thing is, when you're in a band and you're playing live, you don't always hear everything.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So this actually happened with us when we were playing music. So, like, I remember there was a time where we were playing a song live for like a year, and then we actually sit down to record it. And I'm like, oh shit, this is what you've been saying this whole time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you're playing live, like, it's loud, like you're into what you're doing.
Right.
You're not focused on everything.
Right.
So now it gets to the time like they have to go into the studio and they're actually like hearing Ian's lyrics and they're like, oh, this is like kind of fucked up because they didn't really necessarily even know what he was saying.
Right.
They just knew that it sounded good.
Yeah.
So now they're actually recording it and they're just like, whoa, dude, like, it's pretty, are you okay? You know what I
and
mean?
he's like, no.
Nah.
Haven't you noticed I'm suffering?
Yeah. So, but
and
that,
like, dude, sorry.
like, sucks to suck, dude. But so they record the album. It's called Unknown Pleasures. It looks like this. And it's just a great album.
Yeah.
It still sounds new.
Yeah.
Honestly. And the thing with like the production, like he kind of took it from sounding like just a punk album to like it kind of sounds like post-apocalyptic disco.
Right? Definitely post-apocalyptic-ish. Yeah, because I see that. I see kind of like a bombed out shelter where people are playing music.
But they're dancing.
Yes, they're having a good time.
Right.
But it's bombed out and depleted.
Depleted. Yeah, and I don't know, it's just such a good like if you haven't heard this album, like what are you doing?
Yeah, it almost upsets me sometimes because it's like this album, you download all your Joy Division and there's an ending point. You know what I mean? There's a cutoff point because like it's not here anymore. And I'm like, there's no more music like this.
No.
There's no more.
No.
Like, it's really, really, it can be upsetting sometimes because, especially when you skip and then you go years and years into your journey with Joy Division and all of a sudden it's just like more than 10 years and it's just like, shit.
You're like, there's still nothing like
this.
There's
no more. Like, fuck.
Yeah, it is really crazy. To this day, like, there's still nothing really like Joy Division. Like, they still really are just completely unique in their place in music.
Yeah.
But I always think about that too, and it's like I always choose to look at it as like you can be upset that there's only so much, but I would rather be happy that it exists at all.
Yeah,
because it didn't have to.
That's true.
I mean, what if Ian just never saw their newspaper article?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's
we
true.
could have just never had Joy Division at all.
That's true. I hear you, and you know what? I choose to be happy.
Yeah, happiness. Side After Dark, aka SAD, we endorse happiness. All right, so now the album comes out. Great album, big deal. The epilepsy's getting worse.
Yes.
Because he's not listening to the doctor.
Not at all. He's on medication and he's still taking that, but he's still having seizures because, you need to recover from things.
Right.
Sleep is one way.
And he just doesn't let himself recover, basically.
Youth. That is youth. Like because I can remember my early 20s, and I can remember my friends like laughing at me for wanting to take a nap. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Come on, let's keep partying.
Exactly.
It's only 2 a.m.
Sifa's going to lay down, y'all. Like,
well, Ian didn't lay down enough.
No.
Because shit just keeps getting worse. And the thing about it that's really fucked up is like it would get to the point where he's now having seizures on stage.
Yes.
And just because of his already kind of weird dancing, like people thought it was part of the act.
They did.
You know, which is crazy. And it's kind of like if you're Ian, like at some point you kind of feel like a prisoner in your own body. Mm-hmm. Because like we said before, like he had these upsetting feelings and things that he needed to get out, and the music was his way to do it.
Yeah.
And now the way that he's able to express that aspect of himself, he can't physically do it anymore because his body is just, it's not working.
Yeah.
So now he's like, what the hell do I do?
Right. Which is sad. You know, he definitely didn't want to take a break. It's sad. You know, I wish he'd held out for much longer. I'm sure there would have been some like studies and stuff because by this time you're pretty famous. You know what I mean? So you're probably going to have people that reach out to you.
Yeah.
So that was pretty sad. But yeah, he was having seizures on stage. People thought it was part of the act. I mean,
they're like, I've never seen somebody dance like that.
Exactly. If I was him, I would just keep it up. I'd be like, yo, just gather around, pick me up and carry me off and just keep playing instrumentals. Like, this is the show, baby. And,
you knew what you're signing up for.
you know, and then, you know, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I'll let it leak out that, I had epilepsy the whole time. But I've got treatment for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, epilepsy can be very dangerous. You fall out, you can hit your head and knock yourself unconscious. Like, there's so much you can swallow your tongue. But yeah, and it's uncontrollable, even with the medication.
He lost control?
Yes, he did. But he wasn't helping it. You know what I mean? You got to help it. You know, I've never heard of anyone epileptic that was necessarily on the brink of suicide. I know that it can depress you, definitely, but I know you gotta work with it.
Right.
You know?
And he just didn't.
No, he
really
didn't.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, the rest of the band understands that his condition's getting worse. They don't understand how bad it's getting. But they're like, okay, maybe we focus on like recordings. We don't do as many live shows, you know, kind of give you a break. So they go back to the studio to record their second album, which is funny. Like, so like the album's called Closer.
Yes.
But I always thought it was Closer because it was their last album.
Oh.
Like, I literally thought it was Closer the whole time until I saw somebody talking about it. Like, I was watching, you know, doing research. Well, I knew a few months ago, but I was randomly watching, like, a Joy Division documentary. I'm like, oh, it's Closer? Interesting.
Oh, man. If it was called Closer, I'd have been like, Ian was a sacrifice. Somebody knew something.
To the rock gods.
That's right.
But yeah, so I mean, so they go back in again with Martin. Yeah. The magnificent producer. And they really kind of, you know, just further develop the sound from the first album. Yeah. I don't think it's all the way through as one listen. I don't think it's as solid as the first album. Right. But there's definitely very solid tracks.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you're right about that. I mean, we were talking about it before, like a shadow play is not on that, but like shadow play, the guitar solo. It's crazy because the guitar is not even the most focused instrument for Joy Division, right? We focus on the bass and then we focus on the vocals, but the guitar solo for shadow play is one of the best guitar solos I've ever heard in my life. Like, I really love the way it feels. You gonna play it, Dan?
I kind of want to.
The guitar solo, not the bass.
No, I don't know the guitar solo. I know the bass lines because I always think about the bass.
Let's go for it. Maybe for bonus content, I'll sing something and learn that guitar solo.
That's all you get.
Yeah. I love that kind of like. Yeah, that's so awesome. Take that, Billy Idol.
Right. So they put out the second album. Yep. Again, they keep getting bigger and bigger, and Ian's health keeps declining, just like the state of Sifa's mic stand.
Exactly. I don't want to talk.
And they're getting ready to make it to the big time because they're like, we're going to America.
That's right.
We're going to tour America. That's where shit happens.
Yep.
Unfortunately, they never got to do that.
They never did.
Because literally the day before they were scheduled to go play in America, Ian decides, you know what? This is a little too much for me.
It's too much for him.
He gets in an argument with his wife.
Yeah.
And he basically says, hey, I need some alone time.
Yeah.
She comes back in the morning and he fucking hung himself.
And he hung himself. How nice of him. Let's just be honest, Ian, okay? He was like, fuck those Yanks. Can't stand them.
He's like, this is a British thing.
Yeah.
We do this for us.
We keep this over here. We took your rock and roll. We made it better. And we're keeping it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Joy Division never played a single show outside of Europe.
Never. But downtown Manhattan, you would swear. You would swear it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You would swear they came and they lived here for like 10 years.
But honestly, like the fact that they never played a single show outside of Europe is honestly kind of impressive. Because they're still so huge and so influential. And when you think about it, like, this was like a pretty small thing relatively. Like they were, driving around England, the kids, they were like 22, 23 years old. They weren't huge, global superstars, but their influence is just absolutely massive. Like so much more than so many other bands from that era that were selling out stadiums and were doing huge things.
It's true.
And if Ian, was able to live longer, they would have been one of the biggest bands in the world. Absolutely. Like there's no way that they wouldn't have.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, that writing style, we were trying to figure out what words we would say to start the podcast off. But just his writing style is crazy. You're on the 10th floor down the back stairs into no man's land. That's insane.
In a room with no windows in the corner, I found truth.
I mean, my goodness.
I remember when I first heard Joy Division, I was listening to that. I'm like, whoa, this is fucked.
Exactly, right? You almost like look over your shoulder, like, who's here?
I'm just like, I'm nervous.
Exactly.
There's no one even around, but like, I'm anxious right now.
Yeah. He's so ominous, that Ian. Like, and in a good way.
Right.
I want this cloud over me.
Right.
I want it to rumble.
And in a way, again, I think it does go back to, they're still living in the shadow of the World War.
Yeah.
And now it's the middle of the Cold War. Yeah. It's the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And there's still this feeling that like, the world could end due to a nuclear holocaust at any point.
Yeah.
Thank God that's never happened again.
No.
Thank God, nobody has to deal with that now.
Yes.
But so that kind of mood was just so prevalent in their music, and I think that's why so many people connected with it, because not only was it something that wasn't really being fed by other musicians, but it was just something that so many people were feeling but not necessarily even talking about. That when something like that comes along, it's just like, this really speaks to me. You know what I mean?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that whole sound was just amazing.
So they lose Ian. And like we said before, they said years ago that if any of the band members leave for any reason, they're starting a new band or they're going to do a new name or whatever. So the boys, Steven, Bernard, and Peter, they're an ambitious group of lads.
They are.
And they, after their, obviously mourning of their friend, they're like, so we're going to keep making music, right?
Exactly, because Ian didn't leave a note.
He didn't say don't do that.
Exactly.
And it's funny because, obviously Ian is such a big part of Joy Division, but, he didn't play an instrument.
No.
Well, he played guitar a little bit, but, he didn't, like, write the instrumentals, really.
Right.
So the three of them were just like, clearly we have something musically that people like.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for us to stop. Obviously, it's not going to be the same without Ian, but we could still do things. So they have a keyboardist. I don't remember her name right now, but it was like Steven's significant other joined the band to play keyboards and like add some background vocals and stuff.
There's a G in her name and with 2 L's. I forgot exactly what it is. So.
And they were like, well, what should we call this band?
Why do we forget the same thing?
It's not important, I guess.
Not in the sad world.
They're like, well, what do we do? What do we call it now? This new band that we're doing.
What do we call it? It's new. It's new.
It's we got a kind of a new order going around,
Yeah.
Let's just be the new order.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. And I think about this now. It's like I wonder how Joy Division fans felt about that at the time. Were they excited? Were they like, how could you do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because them losing Ian and deciding to go on, like, that is a big decision. You know what I mean? Like, our first episode was Led Zeppelin. Like, Led Zeppelin lost Bonham, and they were like, we can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. We're done. Mm-hmm. And they kind of just went their separate ways. Mm-hmm. But the rest of them, they're like, nah, we're gonna keep doing it.
We're gonna keep going. I feel like I don't know. I feel like Ian would have wanted them to keep going. I feel like they have a different attitude to Zeppelin. You know, it just seemed like. I don't know. This younger punk energy is like you better keep just going.
Yeah, just you better do it.
Yeah, as opposed to like right before them with that whole kind of like a super group brotherhood where it's like no one leaves. You know what I mean, or something like that. So,
no one gets out alive.
Yeah. So, I don't know for sure, but. I remember finding that out because I didn't know exactly. Like, I obviously had heard of Blue Monday. We all have.
I think Blue Monday by New Order is like the best-selling single of vinyl ever.
Yeah.
Or a 12-inch single, something like that. Because they used to play it in the clubs all the time.
All the time. You can play that instrumental all the time. It just really, really slaps. It really bangs. I mean, that's amazing, that one. It just keeps going and going and going. And it's like it's an inquisitive type of rhythm, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So you're just like, what else? And then it's like dun 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 dun. You're like, oh, dun 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 dun. You're like, okay.
How does it feel?
Exactly, right? You got some synth
to treat me like you do. Oh yeah, and by the way, Bernard I'm going to take over vocals. Bernard took over vocals for New Order. We didn't say that.
Exactly, and we also make music.
Yeah. Also, listen to Sight After Dark on Spotify or wherever you listen to music, and check out patreon.com/musicmaniacs if you want to keep the podcast going. Blah blah blah.
But yeah, I remember being thrilled, like because I like finding it out in the movie, finding out when people told me, like you got to get into this band. Oh, this guy killed himself. Oh, what happened? Oh, they're these guys. Like, I was thrilled. I thought that was the coolest and the cleverest and the smartest. And it was right along their generation's alley, right? Like we were saying, like it's something that the punk kids would definitely do.
Right.
And
it's just crazy because I didn't know that either. I knew New Order.
Yeah.
And I knew Joy Division. I didn't know they were the same people.
Me neither.
And then it's like, like New Order, they obviously have a different style. You can't replicate what Ian did.
No.
But, they've been successul for decades.
And I like the sound. I like Bernard's voice. That tonal, before TLC and Britney Spears, that kind of like dry tone. I like that. I like both versions of Ceremony. I love Ian's version and I love Bernard's as well.
Ceremony is the song you mentioned earlier that it was one of the last songs that Ian wrote, I believe.
Yes.
And then when, he left, New Order kind of took it over and that kind of helped them transition into becoming a new band.
Exactly.
So that is really important. Like that song is very important in the history of both of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a great song.
It is. It's really beautiful. Like,
That's a song that you play at someone's funeral.
Towards this time.
But yeah, so
sorry.
Yeah, so it's so crazy. The whole Joy Division into New Order thing. That's only a period of like 3-4 years.
Right? It's just crazy the way life is. Like, and it's over.
Yeah.
And I know it goes by that fast. You know what I mean?
And Ian was only 23 when he died.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Are Joy Division the Biggie of post-punk?
Most likely.
2 albums.
Yeah.
Biggie was 24 when he died.
Yeah.
So he's a little older.
Yeah.
And then just a massive influence on everything after.
It's just a huge influence. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
We'll see.
I can't say I ever really thought about that before.
Yeah.
But so Joy Division, New Order, great music. They just never stopped, and they're still going. I think Peter's not in New Order anymore.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're still around.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And it is cool, seeing New Order do stuff. It makes me happy.
Yeah,
that they're
right?
still out.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. That's why I was thrilled to actually read it, like, and put two and two together and be like, yeah, they went on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it's sad. Ian didn't kill himself just because he was a quote unquote, I just want to call this a suicide case. Because we got a couple of them in our history, right? I want to die at blah, blah, blah. He wasn't that. He's just some depressed kid that just couldn't freaking take a lot of stuff. And then, I mean, this may have been an affection for Jim Morrison. It was like, oh, well, Jim did it. I don't know if he thought like that. I don't know. But I was thrilled and very happy to see New Order go on.
Well, the Jim thing is a little, that's a little debated, right?
Yeah.
How his death, we don't have to get into all that, but.
Yeah.
But, another interesting correlation between them and the Doors. So the Doors kept going after Jim died.
That's true.
But I think where they fucked up is they didn't change their name.
Yeah.
They kept it as the Doors.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, what is...
Where's Jim?
Well, if they lived under a rock and they didn't know that Jim died, they'd be like, hey, didn't you have another singer before? But yeah, the Doors weren't able to recapture really much success after that.
No.
Where New Order was.
No. The thing with the Doors, the reason why they weren't able to capture much is that the band was getting very fragmented.
Yeah.
They kind of hated Jim towards the end. He was kind of getting on a couple of people's nerves, mainly the pianist. No, I'm just kidding. No. It was John. He was, John really had a problem with him towards the end. And I feel like with New Order, they were still with each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for the lead singer to die, I don't want to say that the other group members in the Doors were like, finally, but they were like, okay, well, well, let's do some new things. I wrote this song. Let's,
right.
You know what I mean? I'm just seeing how the characters kind of played out and reading about the characters. I feel like that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
Hear this from me now. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Ray's like, it's my time to shine.
Exactly. But the people was like, and Ray, you better go to the back, roll those sleeves down. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting, the parallels between Joy Division and the Doors. But again, we'll do a Doors episode at some point.
Definitely. We've got to.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the story of Joy Division and how they became New Order.
Yeah.
And their legacy lives on.
Yeah.
Like we said, I mean, there's still nothing that sounds like Joy Division.
Nothing. There's just okay, I'm going to choose to be happy. I'm sorry. I was about to get sad and be like, there's no more of that music.
Choose positivity.
Choose positivity. Or I'm just going to go in a studio and make the exact sound and sing just like Ian and pretend like I've never heard of him. How about that?
Joy who?
I'm called Anger glue.
Anger fragment. Yeah, so long story short, Joy Division is the shit.
Yeah.
That should have been the whole podcast.
Uh-huh.
Hey, what's up? We're Music Maniacs. Joy Division was the shit. Check them out. Peace. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just like there's so many people that owe so many things, even to this day, of bands coming up that owe so much of their sound to Joy Division.
Yeah.
You can talk about like Interpol and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They clearly are huge influence by Joy Division.
Oh, yeah.
It's really Joy Division almost became a whole genre.
Yeah, they almost did. It's crazy. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of like a funny thing to like leave off, but I don't really know if I have anything. It's just such a great band. Like, even though it is such a sad story, it does make me happy knowing that music exists. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And especially maybe because I've only known it for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Like, there was very much a time where I was a musician in bands doing things, and I had never heard Joy Division.
Uh-huh.
So then for Joy Division to come into my life, more or less, I'm so glad that it did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I want to leave the people with.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I love Ian's words, and I just think that they're some of the greatest words I've ever read. I think that some of their bass lines are some of the best bass lines I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
That production is amazing. Like, I don't know what bug gets into somebody that's like, okay, I'm here in my studio. Let's hear how this sounds like this. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
that in itself is like a huge gift. And just to like see somebody get that kind of gift and do that with it is just like, well, thank you. Like, hats off to all of that became Joy Division and New Order.
Cool. And hats off to all of you for being here. Whether you're watching us on YouTube, whether you're listening to us wherever you listen to stuff, this has been Music Maniacs with Sight After Dark.
I like that.
You like my radio voice? Thanks for tuning in to the cool sounds of Music Maniacs with Sight After Dark. We're going to be coming at you with new episodes every other week. We got bonus content on our Patreon for every single episode that we do, so check it out at patreon.com/musicmaniacs.
Hey.
And until next time, keep listening to that good music. And we're out.
Peace.